Was I right or was I wrong? It's time for a transparency report. What's up, everybody? Brad here, back from vacation, back from work travel, back in the studio, or whatever you want to call this thing. And as I've done in previous years and previous timelines and previous lives, or whatever you want to call it, I'd like to take a look back at some of the stuff that I wrote that was going to happen at a given event and see, well, was I right or was I wrong? And so these are what I like to refer to as transparency reports, because prior to E3 this year, I kicked out about 15 pieces of information, insidery stuff. And so I think it's worth talking about as we kind of reflect and move on from the limelight that was the Los Angeles event for Microsoft, and just, was I right or was I wrong? It's an interesting look because there's more information, obviously, than the text on the page, and we can walk through some of the information I heard about and get a better understanding. So I wrote up a big post prior to it, and I also did a video, but I'll link to the post down below if you really want to read it again. But I'm going to read some of the lines and then talk about if they're accurate or not accurate. And so I wrote, kicking things off here, for those who are hoping to see a list of raw specs, I don't think that's quite accurate. Instead, look for the company to provide performance multipliers for hardware and other, high level stuff. And that is absolutely accurate. Microsoft did not come out and say, hey, here's the T-flops, the gigahertz, whatever, the megahertz and all that good stuff. The only thing they really did say was, I think it was 40 times the storage performance, which was right across a shot across Sony's bow. If you remember, they talked about how awesome their solid state storage is with custom control, which I honestly just think is PCIe 4.0. Can't prove that yet, but Microsoft is going down that route. Sony's going down that route, and it's going to be hard to see that they have something that's like crazy faster than PCIe 4.0 quite yet. Technically, it is possible, but it's going to be so much faster than current gen stuff. That's all that matters. So that was absolutely accurate. Also expect to hear about how these new consoles can take existing Xbox One X games and enhance the graphics and gameplay experience. This was sort of accurate. Microsoft did talk about this, not directly always on stage, but they talked about how things are forward and backwards compatible and that it will upscale to the current on the current hardware. So that is, we'll give that like 50%, whatever you want to call it. Microsoft isn't going to announce everything at this event, just keep enough details to keep the event interesting, but they will hold major details back until closer to release. That is accurate. That kind of falls into the same that they didn't talk about raw specs, whatever. On the game side, Gears of War 5 will be shown, codenamed Halifax will have a strong presence, which it absolutely did. Remember, they even went underneath the stage, so that was obviously accurate. There will be new DLC for State of Decay 2. I believe that is accurate. Forza Horizon 2, we got the Lego expansion. That is accurate. The Halo Infinite trailer was shown. Age of Empires info. And then Fable details may be tossed in, so I didn't explicitly confirm that. It was more of just kind of hedging. The one thing I did not get exactly right was I said Halo Infinite trailer and gameplay. Now, I want to explain how this gameplay word came about. If you actually look at the trailer, which somebody had conveyed to me, I did not actually see it prior to the event, there's actually a scene where it says continue, and that individual, or people, I should say, thought that, hey, that is when the person is going to be taking over and playing the game, rather than it being a pre-rendered video. So that is where that confusion came in, and you can honestly see how that happened. So of all the game stuff, it was mostly accurate. The gameplay of Halo Infinite trailer was the only thing that wasn't there, but they did have an Infinite trailer, and it was extended gameplay, so all that good stuff. And then for Halo Infinite, this will be the first real showing of the next generation game. That was accurate. Microsoft will be running the demos from a PC, which is sort of accurate. Remember, it's just a video, so it's not like they're running it from the console. So partially accurate, but you can kind of understand how, in hindsight, how this information fits together. In addition, Microsoft will have a solid first-party presence. Sources at the company are saying that this is among the strongest showing of third-party companies in E3 history. I believe that is accurate. You got to put that in comparison to some previous Microsoft E3s where third-party presence wasn't all that great. I mean, Keanu was up on stage.
You're breathtaking.
Let's just throw that out there because that was pretty awesome. Other things that I wrote, new PC gaming app codenamed Garrison. We all know that was accurate. It actually leaked right before the event. I also said I'm expecting a single keyword there, single studio acquisition, which they did, Double Fine. was announced on stage. So that is in fact accurate. The one thing that wasn't quite there, and this one's real interesting because I can give you the background on this. I was expecting a lot more xCloud information. The reason why I was expecting more xCloud, now they did talk about it. They also talked about the streaming console, which I did know about that prior, that they were going to enable that you to take your your Xbox One and basically turn it into your own kind of private xCloud server, and you can stream your games over your internet much like you can in your house, but abroad. That was sort of in there what I was thinking as getting a lot of coverage. I thought they were going to get more coverage. But what the one thing that tipped me off thinking they were going to talk about this a lot was I saw documentation that says, hey, Microsoft is going to be promoting that there is xCloud demos at E3 where the server hardware is 400 miles away. So it was a little bit of a hedge on my part thinking, okay, at Microsoft, they're going to have a dedicated section, which there's been a lot of coverage about where people were doing hands-on with xCloud, and it's 400 miles away. Surely they're going to talk about that on stage. Well, they kind of did, but not really. I thought they would talk a lot more about it, and actually Microsoft got the most pushback for that because the week prior, Stadia, Google's platform, announced all of the details. Microsoft really didn't come out and say too much. And so that was an interesting dynamic. I think Phil Spencer actually wanted to talk more about it, but then he got some pushback from marketing. Because if you think about it, what could Microsoft have shown? It's like, hey, here's us playing Stadia, xCloud again. It's basically just gaming, right? There's only so many ways you could do that demo that really makes sense. And it's not boring, because if they would have just gone up there and showed a different game on stage, you'd be like, okay, we've all seen this before. And one of Microsoft's key drivers for this event was to showcase games, not always technology, because Microsoft gets a lot of flack for going up on E3 and not talking about games. So they were a little hesitant to talk about xCloud because then they would get pushback because they're not talking about games, which is why they came out and said, hey, we're showing over 60 games on stage. So there you go. There's a little background on some of that. I also wrote up that Game Pass will be included with Game Pass for PC would be included with Game Pass Ultimate. That was accurate. And then prior to leading up to this, I started tweeting a lot of stuff because I was on vacation. My wife was screaming at me not to do work, but I can't stay away. So I tweeted out, hey, the Elite Controller V2 might show up. I said it was codenamed Delphi. That obviously ended up being accurate. I also said the gamer tags will be getting updated, and that is in fact accurate. They didn't quite fully go into it on stage. They did it at an event or a streaming event after, and they also posted a blog post about that, but that was in fact accurate. I also said first-party games with deeper Mixer integration. This is one that's still outstanding. I'd heard that Gears of War 5 is going to have deeper Mixer integration, and so we will see if that rumor comes or materializes in the near future. And then jumping all the way back to June 10th, 2018, I wrote up a post after the E3 of last year when I got some information that says, hey, the Xbox project is codenamed Scarlet, and as we all know now, that came out to be true. So, as a full transparency diving into was Brad right or was Brad wrong, if you go with the pure binary, it's either yes or no, I was around 70% accurate, I think. But if you kind of give like some of that hedging or whatever middle ground, it's closer to about 90%, which I'm perfectly fine with. I think the big miss on my part was the gameplay of Infinite on stage. That's pretty much like the only kind of thing one I think I missed on, but it's obvious to see how. But anyways, the reason why I do this is so that when people say, hey, Brad, are you right or wrong? Why the hell should I trust this guy? Like, here you go. Like, nobody's perfect. Leaks are incredibly hard to get right. This information was compiled from about a dozen different individuals. And so trying to blend all that together and get around 90% accuracy, in my opinion, I'm perfectly fine with. You know, if I was 100% right, my name would be Phil Spencer, or I would be Aaron Greenberg, or whoever else up on stage, or Matt Booty. But I'm not. I'm an outsider working to unwind the threads of what Microsoft's strategy is. And so there you go, guys. I've got some more information that's come out, things that are going on, and we're going to work on more videos this week. Now that I'm back home in the studio, it's a little bit easier than being on the road. And so all that good stuff to everyone else who's been tuning in for the past 6 months. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the show. That's about it for this time, guys. I'll catch all of you right back here next time.